It was the first day of the new semester at Halden University, a sleek, high-tech campus tucked in the Pacific Northwest. Everything about it screamed innovation: solar-paneled rooftops, autonomous shuttles gliding past dorms, and AI-powered classrooms that felt more like Silicon Valley conference rooms than lecture halls. This wasn't just any university. It was one of the top research institutions in the country, particularly known for its breakthroughs in artificial intelligence. And yet, in a polished lecture hall packed with eager undergrads, something felt off. As the room filled with murmuring chatter, a few students leaned over to whisper, pointing at the tall black man walking slowly toward the front of the room. He wasn't dressed like a professor, no tweed blazer, no clicker in hand, no flashy slides already queued up. Just a simple gray cardigan, scuffed loafers, and a calm, almost too calm presence. One student, a white sophomore named Preston, loud entitled, "Always." The center of attention smirked and elbowed the girl next to him. "Yo, that's the janitor, right?" he whispered with a chuckle. "He's probably here to clean the smartboard." Several others laughed under their breath, but the man said nothing. He walked to the podium, pressed a button, and the lights dimmed as the main screen activated. No introduction. No apology. Just quiet control. "Welcome to Applied Artificial Intelligence," he said, his voice deep, smooth, and measured. "I'm Dr. Elijah Merrick. I'll be guiding this course." The laughter stopped cold. Preston scoffed aloud. "Wait, you're teaching this class," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Dr. Merrick didn't respond right away. He simply looked at Preston, not with anger, not with surprise, but with a kind of knowing disappointment. The kind that doesn't argue, the kind that waits for the world to catch up. "That's correct," he finally replied. "And you are Preston. Preston Granger. 3rd year. Robotics." Good Dr. Merrick nodded. "We'll see how long that lasts." There was a hush in the room, not hostile, just unsettled. The first lecture began, and immediately students were taken aback. Dr. Merrick didn't lecture from PowerPoints. He wrote code live on the board. He asked questions no textbook could answer. He posed ethical scenarios that made even the most confident students sweat. Yet Preston kept pushing, interrupting, scoffing, making jokes under his breath. "This dude's out here talking like he built the Matrix," he muttered during a break. "Bet he doesn't even know what a GAN is." One girl, Naomi, a quiet, observant black student, narrowed her eyes. "You might want to hold that thought," she said. But Preston just laughed. By the end of class, Dr. Merrick assigned an optional challenge: build an AI assistant that could independently learn classroom routines, anticipate needs, and manage student resources. The assignment was labeled impossible even for seniors. Most students brushed it off, except Naomi. She took the file. So did a few others. "But Preston, waste of time," he said loudly. "I'll pass." The days that followed grew increasingly tense. Dr. Merrick's office, a small corner room buried in the old wing of the engineering building, was humble, yet always open. Students came in confused and left challenged, except Preston. He never showed up except to gossip. He started a group chat, Professor Pretend. He shared photos of Dr. Merrick's worn shoes, joked about his weird monk energy, even photoshopped a janitor's badge onto one of his pics and sent it around. "Yo, this man probably just wandered in from facilities," he typed with crying, laughing emojis. Some students laughed. Others just read silently. Naomi didn't say a word, but she noticed everything. Then came the incident. One Thursday afternoon, Dr. Merrick was seen in the main campus AI lab alone, typing rapidly at a terminal. He didn't seem to notice the group of seniors who walked in, nor did he react when Preston raised his phone and snapped a picture. "Bro's probably Googling how to code," he joked. Dr. Merrick said nothing, but the screen behind him lit up, displaying a scrolling terminal lines, of perfectly executed code training logs, neural weights, visual recognition simulations running in real time. No IDE, no help, just terminal and mind. Preston walked out laughing, but Naomi paused. Something about that code, something about the way it moved. She knew what she saw, but she didn't say anything. Not yet. The final straw came 1 week later. During a student showcase, Preston stood in front of the room presenting a half-functional voice assistant built from ChatGPT's open API. It stuttered through commands, glitched on prompts, and confused English with Mandarin. It's still learning. Preston shrugged, just like Professor Pretend. Some laughed. Then Dr. Merrick stood up. If you're going to build on someone else's code, he said softly, at least understand what it's doing. Preston turned red. What's that supposed to mean? It means imitation without comprehension isn't intelligence. It's mimicry. The room went silent. Dr. Merrick didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. But as Preston left the room fuming, Naomi leaned over and whispered, "You really don't know who he is, do you? He's a nobody. A joke." "No. He's the guy who designed the AI backbone of this entire university." Preston froze. "You're lying." Naomi just smiled faintly. Google HALNet architecture. You'll see his name top of the patent. The air shifted after Naomi's quiet revelation. It was the kind of statement you don't forget. Google HALNet architecture. 3 words that cracked something open not just in Preston's pride, but in the entire classroom's perception of the man they had laughed at. Preston went home that night restless. He sat on his bed, opened his laptop, and searched the term HALNet Neural Architecture. Halden University AI Research Division. The screen loaded. Dozens of scholarly articles, academic journals, patent filings. And at the top of nearly every result, Elijah T. Merrick, Ph.D., lead architect. Preston stared at the screen, his jaw clenched, eyes wide. His heart thudded in his chest. It wasn't just that Dr. Merrick had worked on the system. He built it. He invented the very AI framework the university bragged about. In brochures, the one that ran its scheduling systems, automated research simulations, and trained student assistants. This wasn't some dusty professor from a forgotten department. This man was the brain behind the machine. The next day, whispers flooded campus. "Did you hear about Professor Merrick? He designed the backbone of HALNet. Why is he teaching entry-level AI? Nobody had answers. Only questions." And for the first time, Preston walked into class, silent. Dr. Merrick stood at the front, already writing on the board. Code, diagrams, ethics matrices. The lecture began as usual, but the room was different. You could feel it. Preston didn't speak. He just stared. But while his voice was quiet, his insecurity grew louder. Later that week, during a joint faculty-student forum, tensions finally broke the surface. A student raised their hand and asked a simple question. "Why are there so few black professors in AI?" The moderator paused. Eyes turned toward Dr. Merrick. He looked up from his notes. "That's a long answer," he said softly. "But it starts with who you think belongs in the room." The comment landed like thunder in a church. Preston scoffed from his seat near the back. Well, maybe the problem isn't race. Maybe it's just credentials. Standards? The room fell dead silent. Dr. Merrick looked directly at him. "You're right," he replied. "Standards matter. That's why it's dangerous when your idea of competence is based on skin color instead of contribution." The audience buzzed with whispers. Naomi folded her arms, not even hiding her glare. "Say that again," someone muttered under their breath. Preston flushed, but refused to back down. "I'm just saying. We should be honest. AI is a complex field. It takes serious intelligence. Not everyone's cut out for it." There it was. The quiet racism no longer quiet. After the forum, Preston tried to leave quickly, but was intercepted in the hallway by Dr. Merrick himself. He stood there, hands folded, expression calm. "You think I don't belong here?" he said plainly. Preston didn't respond. "What if I told you I trained at MIT, Stanford, and Oxford, that I was recruited by Google, Apple, and Tesla, and said, 'No, still'?" Preston didn't answer. "What if I told you the AI that helped diagnose your grandfather's cancer ran on my architecture?" That stopped him. Dr. Merrick leaned in. "You assume a man like me had to fight his way into the room. What you don't realize is I built the room." Then he turned and walked away. Preston stood frozen. That night the group chat was quiet. No memes, no jokes, just one message from Naomi. Sometimes silence is the loudest apology, but not everyone took the lesson to heart. Later that week during a lab session, Preston tried once again to assert dominance. He challenged Dr. Merrick during a code review, claiming the professor's neural mapping model was outdated compared to his own variation trained on a generative transformer. Dr. Merrick listened patiently, then calmly walked to the board and rewrote Preston's entire algorithm on the fly, reducing it from 240 lines of inefficient logic to 43 lines of clean, elegant code, all while explaining each step. Then he turned to the class. Code can be elegant, or it can be noise, dressed as complexity. The room erupted in quiet awe. Preston sank into his seat, but the true twist hadn't come yet. One day, a guest delegation arrived on campus, a tech delegation from a global defense contractor visiting Halden to evaluate their AI systems for potential partnership. The university put together a presentation in the main hall, full media coverage, faculty, front row students lining the balcony. Guess who they asked to present? Not the dean, not the department chair, not the AI lead of the current semester. They asked Dr. Merrick, as he stepped onto the stage, dressed in the same gray cardigan, now flanked by towering screens displaying his life's work, HALNet MedScan EduSynth. Even Preston had to stand and applaud. Because now the truth was undeniable. This man wasn't just a professor, he was a pioneer. And everyone who ever doubted him was now just catching up. For a while, things quieted down. No more jokes, no more whispers in the back row. Preston showed up on time, sat near the front, and said as little as possible. It wasn't out of respect, not yet. It was fear. Fear of being humiliated again. Fear of being reminded just how little he actually knew compared to the man he had mocked. But deep down, Preston wasn't done. His ego wasn't done. He didn't just want to move on. He wanted to disprove it. So he dug. One night, he stayed up researching Dr. Merrick's background and found something that caught his attention, an article from 8 years ago. Controversy at Halden researcher. Removed from project over alleged protocol breach. The photo was blurry, but it was him. Younger, thinner, no beard. It claimed that Dr. Elijah Merrick had been discredited and removed from HALNet's research board just before the university filed its first AI patent. The article didn't mention who took over after that. But Preston saw a name he recognized, Dr. Malcolm Raines, the current chair of the AI department. The man who never spoke about Merrick. The man who always claimed HALNet was his creation. And suddenly, the air of mystery around Dr. Merrick made sense. He wasn't just a quiet genius. He was a ghost in the machine, someone they tried to erase. Preston thought he had found ammunition. He printed the article and brought it to class the next day, smug again, back in full arrogance mode. "Hey, Professor," he said, waving the article in front of the class. "You want to tell us why you got kicked off your own project?" The room froze. Dr. Merrick looked up from his notes. No surprise, no anger, only a long silence. Then slowly he walked to the front of the room and set his marker down. "You want the truth?" he asked quietly. No one said a word. They didn't like the ethics of what I was building. HALNet was originally designed to be adaptive, decentralized, student-led. No tracking, no surveillance. It would help people not monitor them. He paused. But Dr. Rains saw profit. He restructured the codebase, inserted behavioral tracking modules, and removed my name before the final filing. I had two choices: stay silent or walk. Another pause. I walked. The room was silent. Preston tried to scoff. That sounds like a nice story, but Dr. Merrick cut him off. "You want proof?" He reached into his bag and pulled out a folder. Thick. Worn. Inside, letters, emails time-stamped, commits original source code, printouts, even a signed ethics review rejection bearing the university's seal and his signature. He walked to Preston's desk and dropped the folder in front of him. "Here's your story. Go ahead. Read it." Later that day, word spread like wildfire. Students shared photos of the folder contents, screenshots of code with Merrick's signature, letters between legal departments. A storm was building. By evening, a student-run AI ethics blog posted a full exposé, "The Man Behind the Machine." How Halden University buried its brightest mind. Within hours, it went viral. News outlets picked it up. Twitter exploded. Justice for Merrick started trending. And then came the blow that no one expected. The next morning, Halden's president held a press conference. Standing beside him, Dr. Merrick. "We owe Dr. Elijah Merrick a public apology," he began. "Years ago, this institution made a decision based on politics, not principles. That ends today." Applause erupted. Effective immediately, Dr. Merrick is reinstated as Chief AI Research Officer at Halden University, with full authority over the HALNet project and academic oversight across departments. Even Naomi, watching from the front row, wiped away a tear. Preston sat quietly in the back, jaw clenched. This wasn't just a twist. This was vindication. Later that week in class, Dr. Merrick addressed the students once more. "Some of you believed what you saw. Some believed what you heard. Few of you asked what was true." He paced, slowly making eye contact with each face in the room. "Let this be your first real lesson in artificial intelligence. The machine may learn from data, but humans learn from humility. Silence. No resistance this time. Only quiet respect." But he wasn't done. He clicked the projector. A new slide appeared. Project Synergy Student-Led Neural System. "This semester we're starting over. You'll build an AI from scratch together. And this time, no one's getting erased." The mood on campus had changed. It was in the way students spoke to each other, in the way professors paused before they dismissed someone's ideas, in the way people looked at Dr. Elijah Merrick not as a relic, not as a mystery, but as a living, breathing monument to what resilience looks like when it's wrapped in silence and brilliance. And the university, it scrambled. The president's public apology was just the start. The administration quietly launched an internal audit into the handling of past research credits. Alumni began calling. Donors began asking questions. And Dr. Malcolm Rains, the very man who had once stripped Merrick's name from the HALNet project, was suddenly nowhere to be found. By week's end, a university-wide email went out. "Dr. Rains has resigned, effective immediately. A review of departmental leadership is underway. No fanfare, no farewell, just silence." Exactly the kind of silence he once tried to bury Merrick with. But Dr. Merrick didn't gloat. He didn't hold press interviews. He didn't throw shade. He went back to teaching, back to building, back to inspiring. Meanwhile, the student-led project he had launched, Project Synergy, was taking on a life of its own. Naomi became the lead developer. Preston, to everyone's surprise, asked to be included, and Dr. Merrick, without hesitation, let him in. Because the man who had been denied everything still believed in giving others a second chance, even those who had tried to humiliate him, especially them. One evening, as the students worked late in the AI lab, Preston pulled Merrick aside. His voice was quiet. No arrogance now, just something close to shame. "Why'd you let me back in?" Dr. Merrick looked up from the whiteboard. "Because I saw myself in you," he said, plainly. "Arrogant, smart, unchecked. You think I've never made mistakes?" Preston's eyes dropped. "But I didn't just make a mistake," he said. "I disrespected you. I tried to tear you down." Dr. Merrick nodded slowly. "And now you're helping build something bigger than either of us. That's the point, Preston. Growth is louder than guilt." For a moment, Preston just stood there. Then he extended his hand, and Merrick took it. News of Project Synergy spread beyond the campus. Tech blogs picked up on it. Venture capital firms requested demos. Other universities reached out to collaborate. But Merrick refused commercialization. "This one belongs to the students," he told them, "not the shareholders." And just like that, the man they once called Professor Pretend became a legend, not because of titles or grants or accolades, but because he stood for something when no one stood with him. And what about the others, the students who laughed? Some dropped out quietly. Some stayed and changed. Naomi, once invisible in a room full of noise, became the voice of something new. She spoke at panels, led workshops, mentored others like her, and Preston. He didn't just change his behavior, he changed his major. From robotics to AI ethics. The final lecture of the semester arrived. Dr. Merrick stood at the front of the room as he always did. But this time, there was no code on the board, no diagrams, just a quote. "They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds." He turned to the class, eyes calm, voice steady. "Don't measure a person by how they look when they walk in the room. Measure them by what they leave behind when they walk out." He paused. "My name is Elijah T. Merrick. I am not a symbol. I am not a victim. I am not a footnote in someone else's paper. I am the architect of HALNet. I am your professor. And I am proof that brilliance can't be erased." The room stood, one by one. First Naomi, then Preston, then the entire class. Applause filled the hall, not because they had learned something useful, but because they had become someone better.